The following program and contents, including the views and opinions expressed by the host and any guest speakers, are solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed are not endorsed or supported by Paranormal Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The host and guest speakers are solely responsible for their own perspectives, and their views do not reflect those of Paranormal Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The information provided in this program should not be considered as professional advice or as a substitute for professional consultation. Listeners and viewers are encouraged to form their own opinions and seek independent advice when necessary. Paranormal Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, and advertisers hereby disclaim any liability for any claims, damages, or losses incurred as a result of the information presented in this program.
Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from our headquarters in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. Great to have you back tonight. It's been a long week, but a good week. Moved some family up north. Had to say goodbye to his son for a little while as he goes into training, but life moves on. So welcome to everybody on the show. I want to make some comments to you up front, though. If you're interested in finding out what me and my team down here in Vero Beach are doing, check us out on our websites at paranormalfbi.com or indianriverhauntings.com. We're also on YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341. We just uploaded some stuff on there. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit about what we do, check that one out. And obviously, here I am on the X Zone Broadcast Network with you, and you can get a hold of me through this show, and you can write me if you have questions, thoughts, or comments, things you want me to bring up on the show, answer some questions, or get some answers for you. You can get a hold of me at ghostguy@paranormalstakeout.org. So, let's hear from you. Let's get some questions on the show that I can help you with. Tonight's an interesting guest. I'm very, very excited to have Mr. Josh Lewis on the show. Josh is a successful small business owner, filmmaker, father, which is most important, and also a medium and a member of the paranormal research family. He kind of came through a troubled past, and he struggled to understand the world around him a little bit. He finally found his purpose within it, following in a very, very simple and profound way. Starting in 2012, his intuitive nature drew him to seek the truth regarding paranormal events and the existence of the afterlife. His intuitive abilities developed, and he discovered he was able to communicate with souls on the other side. He created a group called H.O.P.E, Helpers of Paranormal Entities, to help spirits cross over and give people some closure with their grief. So with that, I'm really excited to have Mr. Josh Lewis on the show tonight. Josh, welcome to Paranormal Stakeout, my friend.
Hey, Larry, glad to be here. It's an honor. I got to ask you something. As I'm sitting here listening to you talk, I feel like I've seen you before, and I thought
that was in the post office. That picture in the post office.
That's good.
Just kidding.
That was good. You might know. I think you might know Scotty Burns, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
We're part of Paranormal.
I started working with Scotty in the beginning of all of my whole journey. Scotty was one of the first people her and John Zapp, Adderhall, I love Zapp. And those two are very special people in my life, that, I don't get to see them as much anymore. And but War Party and what they're doing, and
good people.
And I'll meet up with them sometimes. They'll invite me, and I'll go and I'll show them what I'm doing, and they'll show me what they're doing and stuff. But yeah, John and so I remember seeing something that she posted, and I remember seeing your face. And as you said, Indian, I went, oh, wait a minute, so that's how I just got that. Anyway.
And you're one of the few guests I have in the show that I can say are actually south of me. You're down in beautiful Miami.
Right.
So
I'm at West Palm Beach. I'm right around where Scotty and John are.
Okay,
yeah.
You're not too far south of me. Well, obviously we have some similar friends and some acquaintances. My guests don't know a whole lot about Josh Lewis, and you've got quite an interesting background. So take a couple seconds, if you could, and tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, I like you read, I had a very troubled past. I'm someone that, I had addiction in my life. I had to deal with a lot of stuff. I had to overcome a lot of difficulties that were in my life that, some could say I brought on myself. Some could say it's part of the disease of addiction, or whatever you want to say. And regardless, it was my battle. And, I had to go away for a couple of years, and that was about 20 years ago. So, it's been some time, but, I got out, and I really I got involved in working with young guys that were getting in trouble, because I had been there and I wanted to help, give back and do some service work and work with some guys in these different programs and stuff. And so I was doing that, learning about kind of counseling and just, sharing my experience, strength, and hope with them. And I started making some money in business and opening up some other businesses and things. And I was doing well. And I did well enough where I kind of was like, I'm going to take some time off, and I'm going to start looking at the things that I'm really interested in. And one of the things, other than spirituality, was that I wanted to know really what happens to us when we die. And I don't want to just take, Zach Bagan's word for it or anyone else's word for it. I want to, find out myself. So, I started seeing some YouTube channels and some other things. And this was, in 2012, pretty much. And, I saw there was a PSB-7 little spirit box. I saw you can have a little voice recorder, and so we started going out into locations, cemeteries and places. In fact, some of the times we would meet Scotty, and we would meet John, and we'd meet their other team that they were working with at the time. They're no longer working with now. And, and we go out there, and they were teaching us what they were doing. I was adopting some of their techniques and some of what they were teaching me. And I was recording stuff, and I was getting, very real answers. Help me, I'm here. Need the light, get out. I'd hear some of these responses from the recorders and stuff. And it was just amazing. I knew then that there was definitely something going on. I was definitely getting real evidence. My partner, Nikki, and I, we found that we were starting to pick up on, intuitively, we were starting to pick up on stuff out in the field, and then get validation that what we were getting was right. So I started working with Deborah Lynn Katz, PhD. She runs the International School of Clairvoyance. She's the president of the International Remote Viewing Association, and a very just trusted person in the field. And and I became one of her, I don't want to say one of her best students, but I became a good student of hers. And she taught me how to tap into my ability and start working with it. And I started doing session or readings for people. I started doing them for free, just to kind of to get practice. And And of course, every reading I was getting some detailed, interesting information that was verifiable that I didn't know prior to the call or prior to the reading. And so, amazing stuff was coming through. And at the same time, while I was developing my intuitive ability, which I still am, I was still working on ITC, instrumental trance communication, which is what any of us do if we go out into the investigative field. If we're using equipment, we're using instruments, tools to communicate with the other side, that's ITC. Some people take it to the next level. Some people just keep it, kind of basic. And I started to do a little bit more with it.
Well, let me stop you there then.
Yeah.
Some of my audience may not truly understand the breadth of ITC, instrumental trance communication. Can you kind of give us a tutorial of your understanding of it? And
sure. Yeah, I mean, ITC is started with guys like Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Konstantin Radovow, Frederick Jurgensen, Marcello Bacci. I mean, all of these guys are guys that worked in the worked with instrumental trance communication, using an instrument to communicate transdimensionally with intelligence on in another dimension. I mean, that's the idea of it, and so it's been worked on for over 100 years.
And you're mostly talking about radio waves, electronic waves, vibration frequency, those types of things.
Yep. So I mean that, and I started working with someone in the field that I trusted at the time. I mean, some things have come out now that I mean, I guess that he's not as respected or whatever. But the fact is that, and I won't go into the names, but the fact is that I didn't care what anyone else thought of anyone else. If you were open-minded and you were willing to try and do some new things, I was willing to look at it and try it myself. If I saw someone on a video or I saw someone trying a technique, doing like the Estes method or something like that, I would want to try it. I want to say, well, hey, if they're doing it, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a fair shake, and see what happens. And some of the things I tried didn't work very well, but some of the things I did, they worked exceptionally well, especially for me. So, I just kept going with that. One of the big things that I love to do is to use my intuitive ability, because this for me, and I find that it works the same with others, but I'll speak for me. If I don't intuitively connect to an energy, they don't come through my equipment that well. So I have to intuitively connect to someone, to something, as far as, if I'm normally focusing on someone, I'm not just kind of loosey-goosey asking who's there. Sometimes I do, but normally I'm doing sessions now that are more honed in. I'm focusing on a specific person. I'm asking for them to come through, and I'm connecting with them, and then I'm looking for information to come through me. And then after I get something, or if I'm getting some information through me, I will say it. But then I'm looking for the validation to come through the equipment, and that's what I found early on that would happen, and I'm still finding that out. I'm still finding that that's the truth now.
You mentioned your abilities. Are you a medium?
I am a medium. I'm a trained medium from Deborah, as far as she taught me how to bring out those abilities, and I've done over 3,000 paid readings to date now.
Wow. Okay. Yep. That's quite a bit. And you like to use your equipment with you, because one thing I found, and I have a particular friend of mine that is who's a very gifted medium, but he abhors equipment, absolutely abhors it. And I find it interesting that you're using it in connection with your abilities.
Yeah, it's interesting, Larry. I got to tell you that you just kind of summed it up. I like, because this is the problem. This is what bothers me. What bothers me is you've got paranormal people. I'm going to exclude Scotty and John, but those types of people normally, and those people are open. So those two I can vouch for as being good, open people that I care about, that I know. But the majority of paranormal people are very, it's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of evil. There's a lot of, they're not big on the mediumship stuff. They will invite a medium to come along with them a lot of times, but they're more, based in the gear stuff, right? And so that's what I find with them. Then you get the mediums, and they're like, I don't want to touch equipment. I don't care about equipment. I think that's crazy stuff or whatever. So you've got these two sides, and I'm in the middle. I am a paranormal guy.
And this is a great time for us to take our first break then, because I really want to delve into that a little bit more.
You got it.
Folks, stay with us. Got more of a great conversation coming up with Josh Lewis from H.O.P.E. See you after these messages. And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest, Josh Lewis from H.O.P.E. out of West Palm Beach, Florida. We began to get into a really interesting topic that is something that I've kind of been dealing with for years, and that's the different sides of our field. I'll call it our field.
Right.
And you hit it right on the head. You've got the folks that are gadget oriented paranormal investigators, and then you have the folks with the ability. Now, I got to tell you right up front, I had early in my law enforcement career had a lot of trouble with the medium side of it. And what I mean by that is I trained as a cop, you're looking for tangible things. Right. And this was very intangible. And it didn't help that, unfortunately, through some cases, got connected with some people that probably either didn't know what they were doing or maybe a little less scrupulous than they should.
Right.
But there are folks, and there's no question, I've had some other experiences that completely changed my view on mediums. And like I said, most of them really don't want anything to do with equipment. It's almost like it interferes with what they're doing. And I'm as sensitive as a rock, so I can't really. How do we bring them together? Because I see this as two essential sides. How do we bring them together?
I don't know. I will say this, that, since I've started this work, I've been a pariah of the field. I've been someone that, most paranormal people don't want to, I don't say come near me, but, they're kind of weary of me. Most mediums like to kind of put down what I'm doing because I guess it kind of affects, what they're doing. They have their ability, so they have to hang on their ability. So if anything kind of challenges that, sometimes I think, if they don't know it, and that they'll kind of tell people, well, I don't know about those boxes. I don't know what comes through those boxes, and I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of attitude that I hear from them, and that's a shame. I mean, I don't know. I do know this. I've worked with the Bigelow Institute of Consciousness Studies, where they conducted 2 blind cold experiments with me, testing my psychic mediumship ability and testing my equipment. And both experiments went exceptionally well, where they gave me the feedback after the experiments were done, mm-hmm. proving that I did get stuff on my own intuitively in the first 30 minutes of the experiment. And then the second 30 minutes, I was able to bring through clear responses through my equipment. Mm-hmm. I was invited to speak at the Sci-Fest 2023 conference coming up in Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, in the next week. Next week, IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association, is teamed up with the Monroe mm-hmm. Institute. And together they're having an amazing conference, and I'm one of the speakers there to share with them about the ITC work I'm doing. So I'm hoping that things like that will help open up the door more to the type of work that I'm doing, because the type of work that I'm doing is the future as far as I'm concerned, because you can't deny that. I mean, people can say, they can see my work and they can say, that's just too sensational for me. That's too good of evidence, or that's too crazy. I don't know what to make of it. But the reality is that there's nothing that I'm doing that's proprietary that I can't talk about, show any part of my process, any part of my raw, the sound, the raw mm-hmm. Sound I use, the equipment I use. Anything that I'm doing is something that I can do anywhere at any time with anyone. So mm-hmm. There's no off limits to it. So if someone was open-minded and objective enough to be able to look at it, they're going to find stuff here that is undeniable. It's absolutely amazing. But the belief system gets in the way. There's a cognitive dissonance there. Two opposing ideas cannot exist in the brain at the same time. And if so, there's a haywire that goes on. So that's where we are. I mean,
Well, you hit something right on the head, a real important aspect for me, and that's evidence. I'm an evidence-based guy. That's what I did for 40 years. And I don't think it is beyond the reach for us to create a system where evidence that you're getting taken under certain conditions can't be admitted, can't sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. A message came up. We've got to get evidence. We've got to get to the point where we can collect evidence and process it, look at it, evaluate it, and use it to present to a jury of our peers. And what I'm getting at with this, you're talking about you're testing, and you've been tested as far as your abilities. You do your work then. Why can't we do it in a almost like a laboratory setting where you've got maybe outside folks watching, recording it, right?
Skull experiment type kind of thing,
Skull experiment, exactly. So that's where we've got to go to get people to start to understand that evidence can be obtained, that we can collect it. See, the problem right now is, once again, I talk to friends of mine that are mediums, and they'll say, you can't quantify what I did. There's no way you can prove what I did.
I agree with them on that. I understand.
But why not use equipment to verify it as you're doing, particularly with the Estes method? And for those that don't know it, that's where you're wearing a person's wearing headphones, noise canceling, blinded, outside the sight of the person asking questions, and all they do is answer what comes across this box, which is going through radio waves very quickly, to put it simply. And if we can come up with a structure to create that kind of evidence, you don't want to create evidence, but create the circumstance,
the environment, create the environment.
That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
That's what I think really needs to happen.
I agree. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to talk about something right now that is one of the most verifiable things that I've worked on. And people were absolutely upset in the beginning when I started doing it, but I don't care, because I do what I do with love and respect. I'm real. I have no problem talking about it and doing it with anyone else. So there's charlatans as mediums. There's charlatans in the paranormal field. There's charlatans in all of it, and they muddy the waters, and that really hurts. But I'm going to tell you, Gabby Petito. When Gabby Petito was missing, her body was not found. I had many people asking me to ask for her, and I didn't know if I was going to try and do that. I was going to see if I can get any information from the spirits as to where her body was and what was going on. Maybe I could get some information. So before her body was found, I intuitively connected to the scene of what happened, and I turned on my equipment, and I got responses saying that she's laying there outside. I got that she fell, that she was laying there. I got all this information, and I just spouted it off, and then I got responses through my equipment. The next day, her body was found outside. Okay. I then attempted to do just like I would with a reading with anyone else that does a reading with me. They give me a name, and then I go to connect. I asked to speak with Gabby. Now, do I know for 100% that it's Gabby Petito? No, I didn't know that, but I was going to do the investigation. I was going to do the session and hope for the best and see what I got. The information I captured was that Brian, her boyfriend, did it. That he hit her in the head with a paddle. So she had a head wound. She said that he was dead. She said that he shot himself. I captured all of this information through the boxes and myself before authorities had released any information. All of this is documented on my timeline on my YouTube channel. So just from those sessions, she was able to confirm before any information came out that, she was outside, she was dead, Brian did it, she was hit in the head. She said she was hit in the head The first autopsy came out about a month later after her body had found and all the hoopla was going on.
Mhm.
And they said they weren't releasing the full autopsy. They were just releasing the initial cause of death. And they said strangulation. So they said, so I had people flooding to my page going, "You're a fake. She wasn't hit in the head. She was strangled." And I said, listen, what I captured was real. And I would give it some time before I would make that determination. Let's see the full autopsy come out. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but this is what I got, and this is it. Well, a couple months after that, the full autopsy was released, and they said there was two things that happened to her. First, she was hit in the head. She had blunt head trauma to the head, and then she was strangled, had strangulation. So we got about 5 or 6 different pieces of information, detailed information about her death prior to any information being released, and it's all documented there. That has now happened multiple times, not on a case that big, but on other cases, other things that I've worked on. So,
here's the question I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
And not questioning it at all.
No.
But when you did this, did you have other people present? Did you have witnesses? Did you have any type of checks and balances? And here's why. Hear me out first. Here's why. When you start doing that, you're moving into closer work with using the scientific method. You have other ways of verifying it. If you had, like they did in the school's experiment, the Philip experiment was the same way. They had other people coming in there. Wouldn't it have been great if you would have had somebody there filming it, maybe an independent observer in there watching it? Sure. They saw the whole thing. Not that I doubt it happened. Don't misunderstand me. But that's the type of thing that we need to do to start moving this from.
You're absolutely right, Larry. Let me just say this. I have done now countless sessions live in front of a number of people. I have done sessions with other intuitives, other professional or other, not professionals, but other, paranormal people. Then, of course, like I said, I worked with Bix, and they monitored everything. Like they were the ones, the head PhD was on, recording it himself, monitoring everything, But I can't do that every time. I don't have the ability to have someone come to my house at night and sit and watch. So I have to proceed forward on my own a lot of times. And I have to do it in a way that, I try to explain everything, and I try to show all my sound sources and show my processes. But yeah, I can't do that. But this is the thing I want to say about that. And then whatever you want to say. But there's no way to fake the evidence or to even misinterpret the evidence when I was able to capture these definitive responses where it was way before the time of any information release. So you have to kind of acknowledge that you can go back and it's all there uploaded on my channel where you could see, hey, listen,
don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Don't doubt it. Oh, we got to take a break. But when we come back, I want to continue this conversation because there's some things that you can do to help make this even more valid to the outside world. So let's take a break, folks. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us. And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest, Josh Lewis. Josh, that's a heck of a story. The Gabby Petito thing was huge.
Yeah.
I get that you can't have a gaggle of people around you every time something comes up. Right. But especially when you're focusing in on something like this.
I didn't think it was going to be that I didn't know that it was going to turn out to be as big as it was and what I had done. But let me just say this.
Well,
I'm willing to do what you are suggesting. I'm looking to do what you are suggesting more. That's the purpose of why I want to go. And I'm speaking at the conference in Virginia because I'm going to tell people, I'm going to show people some of the stuff that I was able to do with Deborah in some sessions together, her and I, while she was witnessing it. She was there. She didn't tell me any names. She wanted to ask for some people. So she gave it a target number of these people. And we just asked for target numbers, like in remote viewing.
Remote viewing.
I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it.
Well, and that's going to be because because what you're describing, if you've got nothing else with you, nothing else to verify it, they're going to put you in the exact same spot they're going to put a lot of the other fakers and charlatans out there. Did you have inside information? Did you guess? Did you make a cold reading? And what I am trying to do here, okay, is get our entire field to the point where we are collecting evidence and we are putting these pieces of the puzzle together in a cohesive structural way so it can be used as evidence. Because there's no way, and you got to admit this, there's no way you can actually 100% prove you didn't get the information from somewhere else. Now, I am not accusing, I'm not saying you did, but that's what's been happening in this field for years.
Yeah.
People have been saying A, B, and C, but there's no way to prove it. And that's,
and I don't know if, and I don't, I mean, I'm going to be honest, this is such a loosey goose type of field that unfortunately I don't know how. I mean, I'm one of the few definitely doing some really sensational stuff. So, people are kind of, some people get up in arms about it, but I'm always willing to go the extra mile and say, hey, I'm willing to prove it. I'm willing to show my method. I'm willing to sit in with you. I'm willing to have I've done that a couple times and I'm willing to keep doing it. In fact, I want to do it more with other institutes. I want to do it with other people. I want to work with other professionals to show that this is what's going on. When I speak at the conference and I'm going to say, listen, Deborah was on, this is what we've got. I'm going to show you some of the evidence I've got, but there's still a lot to figure out here. There's still a lot to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't have it all figured out. What I mean?
And that's a problem with the field as a whole. We have been stagnated for so long that nothing has really progressed. A lot of people talk, a lot of people show stuff. I mean, on my side, the more gadget side of it, if you will, we haven't taken a step past that. Half the people that do their investigations of their equipment don't even know the fundamentals of how it works. We've got to change that side of it also. But for folks on your side of the fence, we've got to come up with a way that it isn't loosey-goosey.
I agree. We've
got to. Otherwise, why are we doing it?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, listen, I have a channel that I share my work. I've got patron members that join me to do my group sessions. I do private readings for people. I do private sessions. The majority of the sessions I do are for family, or not for my family, but for people that are looking for family, like regular unknown people. It's just regular people. I do ask for well-known people sometimes. If someone asks me to try to reach out to a well-known person, I'll ask and I'll say, listen, I don't know if I'm getting this person. Unless that person can give me the driver's license through the spirit box, I can't verify that it's them, but I'm going to show you what I'm capturing and you can make the determination on what it is. But the fact is that I wrote a book about this. I'm trying to, I'm trying to really start kind of going to the next level of saying, hey, I'm going to keep sharing my stuff on my channel. I'm going to keep doing my live events. I'm going to keep going to different cities when I can, but I'm actively looking, and I just started working with a woman who's volunteering in my group to help reach out to other institutes to say, hey, Josh is doing this. This is what he's been working on. Do you want to work with him? Would you be open to working with him? Would you be open to witnessing what he's doing? And we'll see what happens.
And sharing is what it's all about. The unity in our field is what's really important. Let's move off this for a second because I want to get your thoughts on your philosophies on things. For starters, we've talked about speaking to the other side. I'd like to know what you think that other side is. What is your theory?
Well, based on the evidence that I've captured over the last 10 years and intuitively and through the equipment, I get, the majority of the stuff I get is positive. Sometimes I get some kind of negative stuff. The negative stuff I get is not demonic per se. It's more like just negative human type stuff. Okay. So I feel like I'm getting just a negative a-hole coming through trying to, say something sometimes, but the majority of the stuff I get is positive. I'm trying to, understand more, but based on what I can understand now, it sounds like people that lived a good life, lived a full life, had some kind of connection to a higher power, whether that and has nothing to do with religion. That's about either that's Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, whatever, some kind of higher power. If they had that connection, if they lived a good life and they did good things to people, the responses I get from them are, I'm in the light. I'm around family members. I'm okay. I'm happy. There's a blissful feeling. So there's a lot of good stuff. There are some people that die under under duress, under difficult situations, murdered, or that have a lot of regret, a lot of anger. They're the ones that are talking about seeing darkness. They're not in hell. I don't feel like they're in hell. I feel like they're just kind of working through some emotional stuff. So there's a higher level. I think there's a higher dimensions to the other side. I think there's
dimensions. Okay.
I think there's the level of just being right here. Spirit can just be around us, or they can ascend to a higher place if they're willing and wanting to do that. People that are bad, I don't hear them say they're in hell, but I do feel they do talk about that they're in darkness. They do feel there's an emotional pain that they're dealing with. There's some type of like karma that they're feeling. So there is something to that effect. But I have had numerous spirits talk about food, sleeping, working, physical objects.
On their side of the fence. So is it your opinion then that these are dimensions rather than spiritual planes that we ascend to after this?
I mean, a plane is a level, right? And then a dimension is a possible sphere, you could say. Like maybe a dimension's a sphere, because they talk about the spheres. I've heard the word, and not
tunnels,
not just the spirits talk about that, but I started doing this research long before I found someone that he's no longer alive, but I started reading his book. And when I started reading this book, I went, holy cow, what this guy is talking about in this book, this man who lived and died in 1956, I think it was the year he died. His research, his work was validating the stuff I was capturing. And I'm going to tell you who that is. That's this guy right here, Paramahansa Yogananda. Paramahansa Yogananda is a guru. He's no longer alive. But what he talks about in this book really backs up a lot of what I've captured scientifically. And I'm just going to mention that, Steve Jobs believed in this guy so much that, he made sure that he had 500 copies of this book to give out at his funeral to anyone that attended his funeral. George Harrison would make sure to keep copies of this book to give to people as gifts because he felt it was the most important book he could read. So a lot of the information that I was capturing through myself intuitively and through the equipment was validated in this book. And I already had done the research. So it wasn't like this shaped it. It was like, this was a validation for me. They talk about the spheres. He talks about karma, the system of karma. That is a very real system.
So when we pass, I've got a couple of questions to ask you here.
Yeah.
But the first one will be, when we pass, do we go to this next plane and then reincarnate to come back till we get it right? Is that they say that he says, and based on some of the responses that I could, if I went through all my work, I could, pull out certain responses, but if we die with a lot of regret, if we die with a lot of unfulfilled desires, and if we die with a lot of, I don't want to say bad karma, but karma that's unresolved karma, I should say. Okay.
We will have to be on the other side for a certain amount of time. And then we will have the opportunity to reincarnate again into another body. What is that time frame? I've heard of some reincarnation cases being within a minimum of 20 years, Earth time. And then I think that it's also taken a lot longer for most cases to reincarnate back. I don't think it's an instant thing. I don't think it's within a few years. I think that it takes some time.
I think there's been some really interesting studies. I want to say University of Virginia that's done a lot of work with kids that have reincarnated?
Kids. I mean, you're talking kids that have been able to locate their World War II airplanes. Kids
That's one. Yeah.
Kids that felt like they were falling out of the 9/11 towers. So there's some real serious cases that have been documented by professional doctors that have done the studies and that have said this is what we have.
So let's talk about the mind for a second. The reincarnation, the spiritual play. Do you think there's a collective conscious out there? Do you think that's part of it also, or?
I believe there's a collective conscious. This is what I believe we are. We are made up of the substance that God is made up of. And I believe that we are God. I believe there is an unmanifested divine Father, Mother out there, up there, all around us. There's something I believe called the Christ consciousness. Some people might say it's the Holy Spirit. Some people might call it the Christ consciousness. But I believe that we have that two-way radio within us to communicate with our higher power. But I like the analogy that even Yogananda uses. He talks about picture the ocean. The ocean is God, source of creation. We'll just talk for as far as more in a non-religious manner. But we'll say that the ocean is the source of creation. And if we take individual drops out of the ocean, that is us, the individual drops of the ocean. Okay, so we could separate some of that material from the main source of the ocean. And if someone took a drop of the ocean out of the mass of the ocean and put it in a little glass bottle, and then let that glass bottle float in the ocean, I believe that's kind of like what we are. We are surrounded by the source of creation. It's all around us, made up of everything and everyone. But we are so dense and don't know it.
Dense is what we are. I will agree with that. Got to take our last break here. So folks, stay with us. And we are back for our final segment. You're right, Josh. This thing is going fast. So welcome back, folks. My guest, Josh Lewis. I do want to invite all of you to take a look at my websites, paranormalfbi.com and indianriverhauntings.com. Check us out on YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341. But I also want to encourage you to take a look at all the other great programming on the network. Go to xzbn.net to see all the great shows that are out there and all the terrific things that are happening with the Relmar Corporation and Simul TV. That a whole bunch of great things are happening on the X Zone Broadcast Network. So do take a look at that. I want to back up just a little bit. You were talking a little while ago about you will ask for certain folks to come over, but you don't always know if that's who's answering, even if it says they are. And that's a concept that's always something I've talked about. If you don't know who it is, then how do you know you're getting the right answer?
You don't.
Okay. And that's and I think that's the one of the big questions that we have yet to come up with. For example, we don't always know if it's something bad. One thing I personally preach is don't ask for things to come through because you may get something you don't want. Do you have a belief in evil?
I do. And it's based on experience. So it's not based on theory for me. It's based on experience. So for 10 years, I've been doing this. And have I encountered anything negative? Sure, I have, especially early on when I was really not knowing. I had a lot more fear. And I think the fear can attract some negative, entity type energies. But, I have a belief in Jesus Christ, non-religious. Okay. I just believe in Jesus Christ as my main guy. And I would not recommend this work to people if they don't have some kind of belief in a higher power. Just because I feel it would become, it can get confusing, or you may encounter some things that may be negative, but they're not necessarily, I'm not saying you can't be hurt by something on the other side. I mean, it is possible. I have seen some cases that, some hauntings have been, a little bit difficult for some people. So I'm not going to say that, but, I don't know. I mean, I've done this for a long time now, over a decade, and I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sessions. And the majority of the stuff that I get is positive. Now, does that mean that it is the person that I'm intending to reach? No, it does not mean, just because it's positive doesn't mean I'm getting that person. But sorry,
Will they lie?
but
Can the other side lie to you?
they could lie to you. But what
Mhm.
is the point of the lie if it's going to have to come to a head at some point? I'm not letting anyone possess my soul. I'm communicating with them through my equipment, and I'm connecting with them intuitively. Now, why is that going to be someone? I mean, I do these group sessions for my patrons every month. Every month for the last 6 years, I have done group sessions where 30 to 50 people get on and we ask for their loved ones. And the majority of the people we ask for, we get responses for. And the responses that we get are helpful, supportive, positive, loving responses. That's been going on for 6 years, and that's even preceded the 6 years for the previous
And
4.
that brings your patrons peace. It brings them
Peace. There's a lot that don't deal with the grief in the traditional sense. Now they feel that their loved ones are there. They know their loved ones are there. You know, a lot of these people are talking to their loved ones privately in their home by themselves without anyone else, then getting on the session with me saying, I just was talking to you in the kitchen, loved one on the other side. What was I saying? Or did you hear what I was saying? And you get a response, an accurate response to what they were saying, or they'll say, yes, I heard you. I was listening. I was sitting right there with you. So you get these validations. I say, what is the point? If some demon is going to lie to me and tell me that I'm doing a good job, that Jesus loves me, that to find the light, what is the point of that? They're not getting any further in with me. I feel protected by the light. I know how to do grounding, and I know how to run energy, and I know how to do these types of things.
Okay, that's a fair question. You brought something up that's interesting too. You said that Jesus Christ is your main guy.
Yes.
Explain to me how you are you a Christian? I guess that's the first question.
I was raised Catholic, and I mean, I don't consider myself Catholic anymore, really. But at the same time, I mean, I have a connection with Jesus Christ that is ever evolving, and
what is that then? I guess that's the question. What do you see Jesus as part of just another name for the entity, or do you see him as a principal figure? And I guess I'm trying to.
I believe Jesus Christ was a man that came to earth that was he was a historical figure. There's a lot of evidence that does support that Jesus Christ, the man, existed. Whether he was the Messiah or not is a whole nother discussion that people can argue or whatever they want to do. But I mean, since then, I have had many personal experiences where I have envisioned him, where I have felt him, where I've heard him come to me. And I don't claim to go, I'm channeling Christ or anything like that. I'm not acting like that. But I have a personal relationship that I have to keep working on with him. I feel that he has supported the work that I've done. I've had many spirit on the other side, many voices come through the box and say, Jesus is standing right here with you. I could see him. I could see this man. He's full of light. I mean, so.
I guess what I'm getting at is where, because many people have talked about God is called many different things in different religions, but it is one central. Is that what you're saying?
I do believe there is one central unmanifested divine father, mother. Unmanifested energy that's not manifested into a being. I believe that there is the source of creation wherever that is. I believe there are enlightened beings such as Buddha, such as Krishna, such as Christ, especially, that have come to earth to help us try to evolve on a spiritual collective level. And so the thing is, if someone's Buddhist and someone is Hindu, someone is, Muslim, if they put their energy into connecting with their Mahavatar, whatever that enlightened being is, they will get the help and it will lead them back to the main source. So whether you're finding Christ, whether you're finding Buddha, whether you're finding, just calling him source, I don't care. I believe you will find your way back to the source. That's my idea.
And the source takes different forms. Is
The
that a good way to
source
put
can
it?
take different forms, but I think that it's the source of light. I think it's light, love. That's what I think God is made of: light, love. Love is light, light, love, and that the next emotion after that, that's below it, but very strong, is fear. And so if we're tapping into love, and we're asking for help from the higher power, we will get it. I firmly believe that. That's the whole point of my work. I mean, I love helping spirit. I love helping people. With grief and with getting a connection to the loved one. But if people ask me and say, well, why do you do this? Like, what is really like, I want to know the truth. I want to validate. I'm like you in a way that I don't like to just take what I get on my mediumship and just take it as, oh, I'm a medium and I got it right, and I'm just going to trust my ability. I do trust my ability, but I'm open to being wrong. And I'm open to validating what I get. I want to validate what I get. I'm a show me to see it kind of guy. I need to see something more than just, oh, this medium channeled this. I'm a medium, so I understand that, but that doesn't work for me all the time.
And I get that. And sometimes you have to validate yourself. I get that too.
Yeah.
But if we're going to take this farther, maybe this is my personality flaw. I want to come to a conclusion wherever the evidence takes us. So let's pick this up and move the ball forward and find out ways to validate it, to present it as evidence. And that's kind of where I'm at. Let me ask you one last question here, because we're, believe it or not, running out of time still. And I think I already got the answer here, but the brain, complicated organ in our body. Would you agree? We really don't know what it does. Whether it's remote viewing, whether it's your work as a medium, is it spiritual, or is it some untapped force, some untapped power in our own brain? What is your opinion?
It's both. I think it's both. I think the brain is an amazing instrument that we're meant to use. But this is what's interesting, is that when I'm getting information through my boxes, through my equipment, and they're making jokes, they have memories of past things that happened to them. They know what's going on. They say very intelligent statements. How are they able to have memory and make intelligent statements and have personality when there's no brain? How is that possible? How can they do that? So there's something that transcends the mind. I don't understand that yet, but the brain is a tool that we need, and we still don't understand the brain fully. We don't understand, everything about it. But
could it be an antenna? Could part of our brain be an antenna?
Well, I feel the heart is the antenna, and I feel the brain is the interpreter. So I feel like there's a receiver. The heart is the receiver. I feel like the brain is what really makes sense of the information. But I'm just going to say that people still have their mind on the other side without the brain. So I don't understand. There's something there that's retaining information, memory, personality, intelligence.
Collective conscious, perhaps, huh?
Yeah.
I have had the same bit of information come through to me, so I do understand what you're saying. So where are you going from here? What's the next step for Josh Lewis?
I'm gonna keep trying to do what you've been suggesting. So I'm gonna keep trying to work with other people, third parties, to help validate the work that I'm doing. I will not be able to do that on every session that I do. I will not be able to do that every time I sit down and try to connect with a spirit, but I'm looking to go further myself. I can't wait for the parafield to catch up. I can't wait for mediums to catch up. I'm going to keep going forward, whether it's taboo, crazy to people or not.
Protocols, my friend. Structure and protocols. That way you've got a system set up. That way the next person after you can take that information and do something with it. If we keep it all to ourselves, if we don't share it, nothing gets out.
I agree.
Dynamite. Well, heck of a conversation.
I'm going to have to drive up and see you guys. I guess I'm going to have to drive up and meet up with you. Maybe you can sit in on one of my sessions once.
I would be very interested in doing that.
Let's do that then.
I'll do that. We'll stay in touch. Folks, Josh, thanks for being with us tonight. And folks, thank you for being with us tonight. Until next time, please take care of yourselves, love your family, and we'll see you on the other side.